Living in Virginia, you're in the fast lane on the information superhighway. We've invested $3 billion in Virginia's broadband network to give you one of the fastest internet connection speeds in the world, so you can build relationships, bring new business to our state, and meet the future of education. It's amazing what we can do together. Visit VCTA.com to learn how broadband connects the Commonwealth.
From the General Assembly and the City of Richmond, I'm Woody Evans for Cable Reports, brought to you by the VCTA Broadband Association and Comcast, connecting Virginians to their government. We have a brand new delegate with us today, Delegate Wyatt. Good to see you, sir.
Thank you, Woody, and thanks for having me here today.
So how has it been? I mean, I know you started last Wednesday, I believe you were sworn
Yes,
in,
sir.
so how has it been so far?
Of course, the gavel was dropped last Wednesday. We all stood and raised our right hand and swore to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of Virginia. And it's truly an honor, and I very humbly represent the folks who live in the eastern part of Hanover County, all of New Kent County, and a majority of King William County in the 97th District. So it's truly an honor to come to Richmond and represent those folks in that district.
Talk to us a little bit more about your district, the people, the economy, the schools, the things that are really important to your constituents.
Absolutely, Woody. And living out in the eastern part of the county, I spend a lot of time in the local civic groups and eating in the local diners and listening to the folks that really got me here today. And what's important to them are public safety. They want strong public safety and support for public safety, education. They want top-notch, first-class schools, all accredited schools, and the funding to get those schools to that level, as well as economic development. We see the residential growth kind of as it migrates out of the Henrico and the city of Richmond into Hanover, New Kent, and King William County. But the commercial development is so important to those folks there that will bring those jobs and economic development to help those localities achieve the budgets that they need to serve those citizens in that district.
So are there a lot of small business people who populate your district?
Absolutely, and we know almost 90% of all the businesses are small businesses. So low regulation is what I like to keep, so those folks are thriving, their revenues are increasing. They're the ones that actually create the jobs, hire the additional people, have those revenues that increase to actually purchase new vehicles and those kind of things. So we really have to represent those folks, whether it be a McDonald's franchise or a printing business or a small engineering firm that is located in the district. Absolutely.
So who are some of the major employers in the district now?
Of course, we have Nestle Purina, which is they make kitty litter, one of the largest ones in King William County, and that's a good draw. We need to expand off of those and all those smaller companies that actually support them, whether they be contractors there. Agriculture is so important, and we know how regulation could affect the farmer and for them to get their products to market. So regulations are a big thing. We have to be business friendly, farmer friendly in the district. Broadband is so important, and everyone around the state talks about broadband, so we have to support broadband initiatives, whether it be the Cox Cable that is there in New Kent County, the Comcast who provides, or now Atlantic Broadband. Myself and Delegate Hodge would just add a ribbon cutting where they lit a new subdivision and actually provide broadband service in that very rural part of King William County, but a subdivision with several hundred homes that it desperately needs broadband service.
Talk to us a little bit more about farming. I think people don't understand how important to the economy of Virginia farming is.
Farming is very important to that area in the 97th District. Of course, farming may not continue to be plows, cows, and sows, the term that I used at the local level. It may be a small berry company that grows berries, a specialty type. We have a lot of produce farmers in Hanover County as well as the grain, hay, and cattle producers that may be in New Kent in King William County as well. So that they truly need to be represented. They don't need the DEQ to come down on them, start restricting them with more regulations.
That's the Department of Environmental Quality?
Yes, sir.
I believe?
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit more about those regulations that you're concerned about.
Well, it's just the farmer is with the price of equipment, it is so tough. Now we see generational, second and third generation folks that may not want to go get into farming. We see the farming reduce around the Commonwealth. So, but yet their yields continue to increase. So we have to support the farming and the farming community, because that's what built a lot of these families that are generational in those localities. So we have to support them.
Now, I believe there's a business development caucus in the House of Delegates,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, that's something that would be aligned with your interests. Have you had an opportunity to talk to any of your colleagues about that particular caucus yet?
No, not yet, but I would very much like to work and be introduced to that and work with those folks on that. I'm carrying one piece of legislation that I've introduced now that will allow recyclable companies to come to Hanover, the district, if they're welcome, but into the state of Virginia, and make recyclables or trash, garbage, into plastic pellets that right now called UBQ is Israeli company that makes plastic and can be out of household garbage that could be used to make plastic. So I really feel that it's the private sector that will fix all our landfill issues, and that is one example of working with this company that will use garbage to create plastics.
Great. You have a few other pieces of legislation that you have introduced. You want to talk to us about these unmanned aerial vehicles that may be used for criminal activities around our correctional facilities?
Right. Serving on the local board before coming to Richmond, I've worked with our public safety or sheriff's department and know and worked with several of those folks in the Virginia State Police, and they tell me at the correctional facilities, contraband is being flown in and dropped, whether it be cell phones or marijuana, in correctional facilities. So this is just one to support the correctional facilities to prohibit and restrict contraband to being dropped and flown into correctional facilities. So right now they're protected by the FAA, so they can't really it's nothing, no state statute there that would restrict a drone from flying and dropping a cell phone or dropping marijuana into a correctional facility.
So this would give the authority of the state and local governments, if you will, some way to deter that type of activity, because the Federal Aviation Administration is unlikely to deal with that issue.
Absolutely. It's to support those folks that swore to take an oath to protect the citizens of the Commonwealth, our law enforcement folks that we have to support in the correctional facilities. Those sheriff's departments that work in those correctional facilities, we have to pass legislation to make them safe and actually support that industry.
So have you talked to any of your colleagues about that legislation? Do you have any co-sponsors yet?
We are working on that right now. We're reaching out to the other delegates that have correctional facilities in those, and actually had that discussion this morning, and we are sending those requests to those other delegates, asking them to sign on.
And do you know what committee or subcommittee that may wind up in initially?
That is right now assigned to the Courts and Justice Committee. We don't have an agenda on the agenda yet, but it has been assigned to a committee.
And I think you also have some legislation dealing with workers' compensation, especially as that relates to firefighters, I believe.
Firefighters, and we have several in our district that have developed cancer, that train each and every day, whether it be in a burn building in Hanover County or other places. The carcinogens that get on their turnout gear that they put on and off every day. It's an increased number of firefighters that get cancer, whether it be testicular cancer, ovarian cancer, skin cancers, than the average citizen. So we've got to pass legislation to support those firefighters that live in my district, as well as we lost an assistant chief a few years ago in Hanover County due to a very rare form of cancer. So more needs to be done to support the firefighters and those that also pledge to protect and serve the citizens of our district. So it's to help those families.
So those would be put on a list of presumptive diseases that would be compensable through workers' compensation.
Absolutely, yes, sir. And we're looking for, and I've volunteered in a lot of the events in our local volunteer firefighters, and I've just spent a lot of time with those folks, and it definitely needs to be done, and it's long overdue.
And there's some Procurement Act legislation, I believe, you have also introduced. Talk to us about that and the importance of it.
Well, the procurement is dealing with the UBQ to allow recyclables or garbage to be sold, and companies from an Israeli company that is an Israeli company that wants to come here and open up and actually sell in the Commonwealth.
And that's something that would help the environment as well.
Absolutely, because the landfills are expanding right now and overflowing, so it's the right thing to do, and it's the private sector that will fix the recyclable issue and not the government.
So you were on the Hanover County Board of Supervisors for a number of years. Talk to us about your experience there as it relates to what's going on here so far.
Right, and it's opening your home out and up to folks that have concerns, and that's what I plan to do here in the house. My door is always open. I try to eat in as many local cafes as possible. I want to be the citizen legislator. I want to talk to the citizens, listen to what their concerns are in the district, and carry those concerns here, like those bills that I am carrying that will affect those folks that live in the district. So it's so important. Education is so important. Our career in trades and technology, CTE, in the districts are so important to help prepare our kids for the job markets of the future.
And that's one of the ways to attract businesses as well as to have a employee ready, for instance, body of constituents in order to attract those kinds of businesses to your district.
Right. It is good to create internships and try to bring in those small business communities to work with the local school divisions so they can recruit right out of high school, whether it be high school, a 2-year college, or a 4-year institution. Get those folks thinking about what career path they want to take at a younger age so they can prepare themselves for the job market. It's more important than ever before, with employment being at 2%. It's going to be a high demand for those folks that want to fill those jobs, and the small business owners are already coming to my office right now saying they can't find qualified roofers. They can't find folks that work in mechanics and automobile dealerships and those kind of things, body shops, small engineering firms. So it's so important they start recruiting at the high school level, and then as those folks go to a 2-year, 4-year institution, they can kind of keep those folks plugged in and actually recruit them right out of school.
So are there any apprenticeship programs that some of these businesses have initiated?
Yes, the goal is to try to get them to help work with and donate products to these CTE trades and technology centers in the localities to kind of make the two connect. So it keeps the budgets lower, not as much needed when a large commercial air conditioner donates a chiller to one of our local schools for them to teach and on. It is so important when the firefighters donate time to those learning the firefighter trade in the school level, and then those folks can help choose a career path, whether they want to choose to go to King William, Hanover, or New Kent, or go into the other ones in the locality, Henricus, Chesterfields, or the city of Richmond.
To what extent is your district able to retain those young people right now?
It's so important, but so wages have to remain high. In those smaller localities that I represent, Hanover, New Kent, King William, the wages have to be competitive with those larger localities, so we get the highest quality employee and really keep the bar and maintain a very high standard as we continue to recruit, whether it be at the teacher level, firefighter, and other localities.
What about the community colleges? They play a great role in that effort as well, do they not?
Right, and they have, you can come in dual enrollment in our local high school, so you can graduate the local high school with an LPN or take those
practitioner
nurse. That's right. So in other degrees at the high school level, So taking those college courses, whether when they're in high school, will only help them graduate. They could graduate from a 4-year institution and only go in there 3 years. And the parents like that too, because it keeps those costs down, of course.
What about veterans? What opportunities are there for veterans in terms of education?
We have to support our veterans, those that serve and protect us here and overseas. We have to create and support policies that make it good for those to seek education as well as medical benefits and all when they come back and kind of become assimilated into the workforce here in the Commonwealth. So those have to be supported, absolutely.
Is there a way for a veteran who has served overseas, for example, and who has garnered significant experience, for example, as a medical tech, emergency services, is there a way for a veteran to get credit for those years of service towards a certificate or a degree?
Well, I really don't know the answer to that question, but yeah, I would like to work with those folks, and we have active American Legion and VFW posts to work to get accredited at the community college level, and Bon Secours Memorial Regional Hospital is located in the district, so we want to support those and all the businesses that support that hospital that have popped up and continue to expand. It's not just the hospital, but it's all the medical offices and all the other buildings that are around as those folks come to Mechanicsville to use that facility.
And what are you hearing from young people about the cost of higher education, be it at a community college or at one of our institutions of higher learning?
Right. We continue to hear how the skyrocket of 4-year schools are, and kids get out of college with a considerable amount of debt, and they're maybe entry level at $35,000 to $45,000 a year, and it takes them several years to pay back that debt. So now I know even with the governor's budget, and we need to actually, from talking to a lot of citizens, they're sending their kids to some of these 2-year institutions or 2-year colleges, which J. Sargent Reynolds Community College in the Richmond area is a very good direction for these folks to take these entry level, the first 2-year classes before they go on to their 4-year institution to help keep those costs down.
Yeah, I believe in the area of cybersecurity now, there are a lot of good paying jobs out there, and some of the junior colleges, I assume J. Sargent Reynolds, if it hasn't already, will be doing the same thing, is offering a certificate in cybersecurity, because there are jobs out there that pay as much as $80,000 starting out.
Right, absolutely. So all of those type jobs, those IT and technical type jobs, are so important. Ardeen Williams, who is the Vice President of People Operations, when she visited the state fair with the governor, she wanted to meet with local individuals, and then me being on the Board of Supervisors this past year as the vice chair, met with her and our superintendent for schools, as well as folks from Caroline County, and how they stressed, and this is the person that's going to hire the 25,000 individuals in Northern Virginia at the Amazon facility, how important it is to we prepare, not just give these young people degrees, but coding, how important it is. The job like an auto mechanic, you have to have computer skills now and take computer classes, because being an auto mechanic is not just turning wrenches anymore. It's replacing modules on doing diagnostic testing on these new cars. So coding and computer science is so important, and that has to be started at such a young age to prepare these folks to this very competitive job market as we continue to see actually the unemployment rate continue to drop.
And I take it those are the kinds of jobs that can't be exported abroad, for example, like call centers.
Right, that's it. And it's so important, and we want everyone to afford the opportunity to a good paying job. That's what keeps Virginia, as it is the #1 state to do business with, and we as a body need to do everything we can to keep those regulations down, allow those businesses to continue and flourish and continue to hire those young people and create all that opportunity for these young people over the next several years.
The budget is really important. The AAA bond rating is more important. Talk to us about why that's so critical.
The AAA bond rating is so important, and I see in the governor's budget a few extra dollars are being put in reserves. It is so important. That, of course, is needed when you borrow money, and to help weather storms during a tough economic downturn, the reserves. So, yeah, the budget, we just don't want them the other side to overspend, and I know they want to provide a lot of services for folks. I do feel you need to provide opportunity and not just handouts to individuals, because we want folks to be independent and live independently. So it's so important, as we are coming from a locality that has a 3 triple bond rating and voted at the local level just last year to increase our reserves at the local level, and served on the finance committee there in my locality. So it's the maintaining good finances and increasing reserves continues that AAA bond rating to, in case Virginia would ever have to borrow money, and to help weather any downturn in the economy.
How does your experience as a member of the Board of Supervisors, you believe, aid you in your quest here to represent your constituents?
Well, it's just being in the community, interacting with the folks and listening to what the concerns are. We hear that public safety, and of course the Second Amendment. Today is NRA Day with all the folks, and I see the halls. It's a lot of folks walking the halls with their NRA shirts and stickers and patches on, and that's very important to the citizens that live in my district, rural Hanover, New Kent, and King William County, and I will be a strong supporter of their rights in the Second Amendment. Mental illness, I really do feel we do have a violent crime issue there. We turn on the TV locally in the Richmond market here, and we see a lot of violent crimes. I don't feel that it's the weapon that actually does the harm to individuals. I think mental illness, we need to address the mental illness issue. I unfortunately, 3 to 4 weeks ago, witnessed a suicide in Hanover County as someone jumped from a bridge off 295 onto 295 as I was approaching in my vehicle. So there's a lot of mental illness issues that we have to support our community service board in the localities and let those folks get the much needed services that they need to support those families as they struggle with mental illness, addiction, and any abuse that may take place in the family.
So is that a budget issue in terms of expanding services for?
Absolutely. So but it needs to be done at the local level. We need to get it back to the local, not the institutions. We need those folks those folks in the community that actually have more resources to actually deal with that one-on-one, face-to-face. When someone's in crisis, they need immediate help right now to help get engaged in that family or that situations to help those folks.
What about the opioid drug crisis? Is that a problem in
Absolutely.
your district?
Those folks need help. I don't support any expunging any records or those kind of things. Those folks with addiction definitely need help. There needs to be more support out there. Unfortunately, sometimes they have to be incarcerated because then they are a captive audience. So to get the much needed help they are, but the opioid epidemic, as I saw at the local level, contributes to so many of the crimes, the larcenies. When the families cut these individuals off that have hit rock bottom, if they want to reach out to try to support their habit, they turn to larcenies and those kind of things, and breaking and enterings in people's homes, and actually steal from their own family members to get their craving as their body craves those opioids.
Now, talk to us a little bit about K through 12 education and how those schools are doing in your district, as well as your high schools.
Right. So it's of course all the schools in Hanover County are accredited where I came from. So it's so important that those localities, the 3 I represent, and really those all across the state, receive necessary funding to support the money spent in the classroom, and that's the big thing. It's we even at the local level a year ago advocated the money needs to be spent in the classroom on the students to help provide. Some of the ones we saw, I went to the recent budget hearing at J. Sargent Reynolds Community College, and some of those folks there were talking about their buildings and those kind of things, and they're local issues that the localities will work out. But yeah, the state needs to work on programs and those to help those young people become ready for the job market and the higher learning as they move through K through 12.
Is it difficult to attract and retain teachers in the district?
I think pay needs to be competitive amongst the region you're in. So yes, I don't see painting Virginia with the same brush, whether it be Southwest Virginia or Northern Virginia. So yeah, we have to support our teachers. We have to pay them a fair salary, and it has to be competitive with the localities they're around to keep and retain those teachers.
Now, what about transportation issues? What kind of transportation issues do your constituents face?
Local transportation issues has always been a problem in our locality, King William, New Kent, and Hanover. We see through Smart Scale, even over the last 4 years on the Board of Supervisors, programs that our locality applies for don't qualify because we see a lot of those funds go to Northern Virginia or where the population is. So yeah, definitely transportation issues need to be fixed. So we want more of the transportation dollars of all the taxes those folks paying in our locality to come back to our locality. So we continue here. The widening of 64 in New Kent is so important to the folks in New Kent. Additional secondary road funding in King William and Hanover County is so important, but it's very difficult to get those to qualify on Smart Scale because most all those dollars either go north or go to southeastern part of Virginia.
I guess you're a little bit more concerned about that given the makeup of the General Assembly now.
Absolutely, they got the population is there, and I get it. So maybe some local regional type programs that maybe need to come up where those dollars being spent will stay right here locally. I know the city of Richmond wants more transit, and I understand that, but our localities want more secondary road funding.
And as I understand it, under Smart Scale, one of the problems is that those localities that have the ability to tax themselves have a little bit more leverage because they bring money to the table.
That's right. So there's discussion right now to create a taxing authority within the Richmond metropolitan area. I am looking at that, but if the governor increases the tax on gas as much as he says, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow to add additional taxing authority here to keep those dollars here in the Richmond area. So that will be a challenge.
Got about a minute and a half left, and I want to ask you this question. How will you measure success come the end of the session from your perspective?
To get these bills that I've introduced that directly affect the citizens in my district across the finish line. I hope these folks, I've come here to represent these folks in the 97th district, and these are bills, that are carrying will directly affect those folks in my district, and they're so important. And I continue to be told as a new person by those that have been here many years before, it's the quality of bill you introduce, not the quantity of bills you introduce. So these right here that provide economic development to the 97th district, or those that provide much needed compensation of those that maybe get cancer and that don't live a long life that we afford, that everyone should be afforded to live, to help those families in need as we move forward.
Great. Thank you for being here, Delegate Scott Wyatt. Good to see you.
Thank you, Woody.
Thank you for watching Cable Reports, brought to you by the VCTA Broadband Association and Comcast. Until next time, I'm Woody Evans.
Mm-hmm.